See, I'm live and didn't even know it until I looked down and see the red thing on. I'm like, oh, I'm live. So what's going on? It is 4 o'clock exactly. I am on time. I was here. I'm prepped and had my water and made sure I had everything. Had to have a little snack. That's the one thing. Keep having to have a little snack. And water. Water, of course, because you're just talking. But the snack part. So what's going on, peoples? Yeah, I was trying to get this thing to zoom out a little bit more, see my breasts, especially in this white shirt, make them look like they're more than they actually are. But that's all right. I always like my breasts. So we are here for our weekly Wednesday chat and recap number 4. I'm going to probably just stop counting after a while, but at least right now you see the early stages. Start with the Turner's Church folks that come over, and hopefully just people that are starting to follow my page. I appreciate the subscribers and just people coming to check it out. I'm certainly getting views, maybe not subscriptions yet, but I know it's all coming. Who doesn't want that? That's the interesting thing about that in terms of what we are talking about in terms of law of attraction and law of vibration is what we really kind of desire and getting it in some sort of balance. And I'm going to do some recapping today as far as Chris and Javon and the Bubbles and the Bears is concerned, but I'm also going to just also start jumping in and teaching my point of views as well in terms of the law of attraction. They're certainly along the lines of what Abraham has been talking about, and certainly what Javon has been talking about. I think they're going to revamp. I guess I'm starting the recap. So that he said he's going to start all over again next week. So, but it's been actually going pretty good in terms of what he's been discussing, and certainly we can see the evolution of Chris and how things have just evolved, and they're definitely kind of bouncing off each other. And when she wraps it up at the end, and also how she does the intro in the beginning, but definitely a lot more focus on source. It was funny that he was talking about his inner scumbag yesterday, and I thought that was interesting, or maybe day before yesterday, but I thought that was interesting how he said, we're not really scumbags. We kind of enjoyed what we were doing, because Chris gets to this point sometimes when she's talking and she's talking about how the past kind of made her what she was, but then there's a little bit of this kind of downing yourself that she does. Deprecation, as we say, deprecation, self-deprecating in terms of maybe not doing what she felt like she was supposed to be doing or according to the norms. But we've never necessarily been in the norms. We've been in with somebody else's systems anyway. And that's the thing. Sometimes some real spirits, real free spirits, real dreamers, people who just are definitely walking to another beat are not going to necessarily get with the program, and are not going to get with this system. I'm one of those people as well. I could not stand kindergarten to 12th grade for the most part. I did definitely the bare minimum, but then when I got to college, I felt like I was much more in my element. So that was so that definitely happens as well. I didn't wish she just kind of chucked everything at 4th grade, or maybe I did, because I certainly had not much of an interest in school. Except to get by. And that's the thing, especially if you get some sort of home schooling per se. Back then they didn't necessarily have homeschooling, but one of the things my mom would definitely do was teach us how to, do some of the basic counting and some of the basic reading, so that we were prepared before we went to school. And that did make all the difference, even in just a small way of her teaching us how to read and write and count, and me being definitely the inquisitive child and curious and always saying stuff and doing stuff and that kind of thing, how that kind of played into just also how you're going to evolve as a person if it doesn't get suppressed and squelched, which unfortunately it tends to happen because the adults are broken, and then then you're a little person or a child, you're eventually going to be an adult. You live the little people and you're around and you're watching that and you're experiencing that, and sometimes you are kind of at the brunt of whatever is going on with the adults who are just kind of a mess. And we say sometimes they're doing the best they can, and sometimes they just mess up, and then sometimes it's just a mess. So I think just kind of understanding that and knowing, I'm just looking on Turner's Church because I just realized I just jumped in with 40404, and I'm going to do that now because I already know how people do. But I'm going to stick with this weekly chat. I see everybody's kind of doing their thing with regards, and I spoke about that with regards to Javon. Well, their whole clique is just kind of doing big things, and it's going to obviously trickle for all of us. So it's just a good thing to just kind of continue to support it and stuff like that. And if you're part of Blue Dot and Squad and those types of things, or feel that you are, you know, I don't have any connection. I don't do any, it's so funny because I don't have any connection in the sense that I don't do a whole lot of talking. These days I catch them later. I don't get up in the mornings anymore, for them, but I catch them later and I comment and I watch the videos and, certainly still feel part of the group. But since they've kind of made the change, and also just moving in, you can see that they've been kind of changing things up and moving in different directions in a sense with a lot of the various projects that they have going on. It's also just motivated me in a way to just do that as well. And sometimes when you're doing that, you know, things also change for you. But tune into kind of the source of where this kind of started from with the Bubbles and the Bears. And that's one of the things about also staying connected. And sticking with what Javon is also doing, is if you feel like you are still connected and a part of that. So I always think that that's interesting how, you know, you're definitely watching from the bleachers and you still feel connected to people. And that's the way that the internet, that's one of the good parts of the internet. There are so many negatives and positives, but definitely when you can start to connect to people in a real way. It's so funny, when the internet first started and people wouldn't say they met on the internet. They would say they met through a mutual friend, because it was just kind of funny to say that you that you met somebody online. Now everybody meets online. So it's changed a lot. So yeah, so recapping, as I said, they've just been talking about Source, and it's actually been really good lessons. You should be watching them. I'm not, as I said, I'm not going to do as much as a recap unless it's like something that just kind of sticks out for me. It's funny, Javon was reading his journal, and I've been making little notes. And I think, as I said, I feel like Chris, her recaps have been having a little bit more of an impact for me as of late. So when she said something, I think the other day about I don't give a fuck, and you know, she obviously talks about how sometimes she's been oblivious. They never use that word, but that is it. You know, where her head is kind of just in the clouds. She's not thinking. She not you know, she's just being herself and sometimes not thinking about it. And you know, for her, she references maybe various religions and all that other stuff. So it kind of helped you to have an open mind. And it's true, it's just various exposures that's going to do that for you. That's going to have you having an open mind to whatever is happening, whatever is going on. But she talked about that in terms of just not giving a fuck. And I decided, it's funny because she's doing 21 days of lying. And actually that's not a hard one for me, in terms of the lying part. So I don't, you know, I'm like, I don't really got to do 21 days of lying unless I'm lying to myself. Most of the time I try and, you know, have lived my life now, definitely as I get older, where I just don't, you know, put myself in positions where I necessarily have to lie. And I already told y'all when I was talking about lying to yourself in the mental health video and things like that, there's certain instances, obviously saving my life, racist and all of that you have to deal with. You know, I don't have any loyalty to their truth, or what their expectations is, which are pretty low for us anyway, right? We're liars until we're proven less suspect and less skepticism from them. So I don't really care about that kind of thing. But anyway, lying has not really been a problem for me. People say, well, not really. What is the not really part? Yeah, actually isn't any. You just kind of talk like that. So yeah, so I just was like, all right, I'm doing the 21 days of I don't give a fuck, because they're also saying that at the same time, oh bitch, I'm gonna die kind of situation. So it's this overlap and rollover of yeah, just looking on Turner's Church and myself here. So yeah, so that's the thing where she's doing kind of 21 Days of Lying and having a little bit of a struggle. Chris is, but just it's funny because it is true. It's just those little minor things. Sometimes when you're trying to tweak it and you're like, well, I wasn't going to really do that. I really wasn't going to do that. So the 21 days of not lying, and I'm not doing the 21 days of not lying because I don't really have a whole lot to lie about. And people, well, what's the whole lot part? I'm just talking like that. I don't really lie or argue myself out of it, out of things in that sense. And everybody lies. And like I said, to save my life, and and in cases of dealing with these racists and what this out external, when you come in contact with people kind of situation, sometimes it does come down to some semantics with some things. So that being said, we also are, she also kind of, well, Javon, he said something about prepared, confident, and content. That was yesterday's, and it might be the day before. Sometimes I'm behind. I know I'm behind today, so. And was just talking about clarity. And I just thought that was interesting because I used to oftentimes talk about peace and clarity, and I don't talk about either one anymore, how things have changed in such a, or evolved and transcended. And that's often what happens, is that, I'm not thinking about it in that way anymore, where I just need answers, or I need help. And as I'm learning and educating myself, I think that that's kind of the thing where we saying clarity. And I think with church folks, right, they would say discernment. It's almost kind of the same thing. But I just want to be much more direct sometimes. When I need help, I need a comforter. Even those times, when you want to calm your nerves or calm your panic and anxiety, as we talked about in the other video and things like that. I need answers. I need help. I need comforting. And it can be from the source, and also recognizing whatever is going to kind of put you back on track. It was funny. I've gotten some bedtime, and that was another Chris thing. It's funny, I'm talking more about, I feel like I'm going to be probably talking more about Chris. I got to listen to her Total Woman as well. I saw I think the first one, which was all right. It wasn't great, but as I said, I guess it'll progress. But she was talking about feeling good, just kind of all day feeling good. And I'm at that point as well. And this is the thing, as I said, that I'm here for Black people, especially talking about mental health and the reality of the violence and the injustice and the racism, the institution of racism and all the systems of that institution of racism that we face. And how is it, in fact, that we can start to feel good? So that's kind of where I'm going now, because I'm done with the recap. Their recaps are going to be pretty short these days, unless I'm talking about something specific. If you want coming here, what did Javon say? A lot of times, I get some bits and nuggets from the lesson these days. I don't. I'm definitely not listening for the sex stories, because of course he gets into 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 20. And stuff like that. So, unless there's something specific that jumps out at me, I don't really keep notes on the class or anything like that. So what book I have here now, to just kind of go into something briefly, and we'll see how long this lasts, and still talking about the journal. And so I'll go back to them and how that relates. Obviously, this is The Secret. If you don't have The Secret book, The Secret CDs, and The Secret movie, I have all 3. I've shown them before. But this is where kind of the law of attraction got its start, got its wheels, got its footing. Obviously, it's been around forever. They stole it from us, I'm sure of it, in one way or another. But when Oprah got The Secret and the DVD, then she ended up getting Rhonda Byrne on there. I kind of talked about all of this. Plus, you can find it out yourself in terms of the information about it and stuff like that. But she got them on the show, and this was kind of, it started the whole thing. She tried to do the same thing with A New Earth with Eckhart Tolle, but it definitely did not go down the same. Even though it was a kind of a much more simplistic way of thinking about letting a lot go. And he did that and if you haven't read that, A New Earth, I think it was called, and stuff like that. But it definitely didn't have the rampage that we kind of think about as the way that The Secret did. And I want to start talking about The Secret, and also, more importantly, the law of attraction and law of vibration. And one of the things about that I was thinking about as I continue to, in the mental health aspects of this, to tell people to, hey, yes, all of this terrible, tragic things that we are dealing with as Black people is real, and we are victims, and we are continuing to be in a state of danger, and rightfully and justifiably so, to be concerned and anxious and depressed and all of those types of things. But how do we kind of live through that? And I know a lot of people, again, because we have been conditioned, and I added another word, right? Because my words have been conditioned, programmed, brainwashed, taught, and trained. And now the other one is controlled, because that's actually what ultimately what all of these are for, is to control you. And isn't that interesting how, they throw all these things at you with this primary objective, which is to control. So I'm going to, if I can remember, and I think I will, to remember to throw control in there as well. But one of the things about it is just sounds so nonchalant, as I was saying, in terms of working out, getting your body right, getting your mind right, and understanding about the foods they're putting in you, the poisons they're putting in you, the vaccines, whatever people believe about that. But I'm just going to throw that out there. Definitely how just big pharma is, but just behind a whole lot of, in terms of controlling your physical body, in that even rolls over into your food if you do your research. And these are not simple necessarily. Well, these days actually they are simple necessarily. You can Google a lot of things, but definitely back in the days when they used to have some really hardcore research that, of course, they're going to put in a book or put in the documentaries, particularly the documentaries, roughly before the 80s, maybe a few between the 80s and the 90s, but definitely the older documentaries when they didn't care, because they know a lot of people weren't going to watch those anyway. So they had people had done extensive research when there weren't computers around, who were doing some really effective and progressive types of research to expose, or really that's what they were doing as well. They already knew about a lot of things, and then they were exposing them. So it's just one of those things in terms of just understanding how what is really going on and who's kind of behind it. But in that same vein, in terms of when I say meditate and get your mind back, and that's the whole thing, because a lot of what we have done is push things to the external, and we are already doing a wonderful job as Black people of surviving. Yes, we may have to worry about these things, and that's one of the things about, being in your present now. If you are okay in this moment, to understand that you are already overcoming, and that's the kind of the next aspect of this, as I was saying about praying and meditating, because you want to get connected, and that's also what JaVonne and the Bubbles and the Bears has been talking about. But as you start to connect and get in touch with yourself and stuff like that. And the two easiest ways are through meditation and exercise, because it puts you in a particular frame of mind when you are doing something you didn't want to do, sometimes with exercise, and also with the meditation, where you are deliberately connecting. But again, as I said, we're no longer about looking up, but this is about external, and then powering out to build up our power in our internal power. I know they talk about chakras and everything like that. Sometimes for me, I don't want to talk about a lot of stuff that I don't understand. But the real truth is, for me, is that I really want to keep things as simple as possible. Even when I started to learn it, and one of the things, as I said from the very beginning, that JaVonne did was make this a Bubbles and the Bears, like a little kid thing for Black people. And obviously it wasn't necessarily a dumbing down, but it was a way to introduce something in a very simplistic way, because of people who have gone through a tremendous amount of stuff, and you need something, okay, ease me into it. And I think that is kind of what the point is, to not necessarily go into things in this really deep, difficult way. Now, obviously I talk like this and say a lot of these things, but I really do want to just kind of keep things simple, in terms of just saying, look, if you start to just meditate, remember to take deep breaths. A lot of times we're not even doing that because of the emotion. It gets stuck all up here, and it doesn't travel around. And basically that's what is supposed to be happening, is that there's supposed to be this circular motion where you are breathing deeply. And both of those things, exercise and meditation, allow for that, to just breathe in, breathe out, as Abraham is saying in her meditations, when she says that, breathe in, breathe out. And you don't necessarily have to do it at her pace, but it does remind you to take some deep breaths. I oftentimes, when I would meet with mental health clients, they would, that's what it would be. They'd be basically sitting here talking like this because they're never breathing, as they're saying all of the stuff that's going on. And I would have to be like, okay, can we pause and let's breathe? Take a deep breath, because you forget to breathe. And if you ever go through an emotional thing, you'll start to realize that as well. And all of these things, if we begin to continue to allow ourselves to be inundated with the racism, the institution of racism, and the attack through all of these systems, particularly what we're seeing on TV, then it does that to us. It stops us up. It restrains us, more oppression in one way or another, because we begin to oppress and repress our bodies. So we don't want to do that. So that's one of the things, again, about just it seems like it's a really simplistic thing, but sometimes it's just breathing, just meditating, just some form of movement. That's one of the things with Javon. He didn't necessarily make it exercise, but then they eventually started with the running, and Chris and her arms getting there and stuff like that. I'm like, mine's a please. I got to get there too, but just those little things to get some movement and get some activities in when you're going through things. I'm in the middle of getting kind of packed up. And as I said, I'm going to be with family, and it'll be a bit of a challenge for me. So that has been a distraction. So you really do have to just kind of come back. And when you start coming back, journaling and things like that, to just get yourself in those modes. Now, everything that is happening is a reality, meaning the racist cops and watching Black people be killed, and watching no justice, and watching these racist grand juries, and all of these things that are very much a reality for us, that we are very much being terrorized and victimized, and that has never necessarily stopped, never stopped. No, necessarily. It has never stopped. It may have been disguised. It may feel like there's been some pullback, but of course now, because of video cameras on phones, video cameras on phones, we are able to see that what people everywhere, for every year, for every decade, for over 100 years have been saying. So that is the reality of the thing. And a lot of times, it's like, don't tell me what to think. Don't tell me I don't, that I don't know what I know. And that's the way that we have basically been conditioned, programmed, brainwashed, controlled, taught, and trained to be in that place where they are telling us what to feel and what to think. And with impunity, are assaulting us. They are violent, and they're very dangerous to us and our well-being. And so how do you deal with this? This is the whole thing. It's like, oh, don't tell me about no meditation and no exercise when I got to deal. No, actually, you didn't have to deal with it. Tamir had to deal with it, unfortunately, that day. Trayvon had to deal with it, unfortunately, that day. Sandra had to deal with it, unfortunately, that day. You had to feel the emotion of it. You had to feel sympathy. You had to feel empathy. You cared and you related because you are a Black person. So you are already making it through 24-hour day, 7 days a week, right? Every second of every minute of every hour of every day of every week of every month of every year. You are already making it. Now, and that's the thing, when you be like, okay, well, then if I'm already making it, what good is it for me to acknowledge that all of this stuff is happening? How is that going to help me? Nobody is acknowledging it. That's the whole thing. People are not acknowledging it. They want us to not think about it. They want us to not feel about it. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to be a part of our day, because that's the whole thing. We are living. We get married. We going through this stress. We going through this racism. We get married. We have babies. We buy houses. We got jobs. We got cars. We spend time with friends. We are doing all of those types of things, the things that we should be doing. But one of the things about it, and then a lot of times we know that we are consciously suppressing anger or fear or rage and all of those types of things, when again, we need to regenerate that power. It's so funny when they have talked about one human being can light a town, the energy and the vibe or from one human being can light the equivalent of a town. So imagine with all these millions of people. And remember, in the Matrix, because we are in a matrix, it's so funny about that, that got introduced, and that also shifted a consciousness. And remember, we're not in a collective consciousness with white folks, so that's another thing. Well, we shouldn't be, because it's counterproductive and it's counterintuitive. But that also created a shift in the consciousness, and looking at us like they show, where we're Duracell batteries in this whole matrix, which is like a giant computer. And that's kind of sort of true, right? We're cogs that we see now. There's not an interest in a vote for your vote does not mean anything, as you saw when somebody can win by 3 million votes and they're not in the White House. All of those types of things, which they've been telling you for years that your vote didn't matter. And then you got to see it this year, especially with the whole delegates nonsense and all of that kind of stuff. But anyway, as we start to, again, acknowledge that we have been terrorized and all of those things, and that we are living through that, we need to understand that that is a power that, instead of something to be depressed, which is true about, but also anything to be suppressed. This is a power that needs to be powered up, where you are living through this thing where people are trying to kill you and you managing to be better than them, succeed against all odds, dominate in all areas, but definitely all the varied areas, all the things they said you couldn't do, all the things they telling you to do and you do, and you're still not being accepted. So there's a power there that we need to utilize. I think I mentioned before when I said that the church, in terms of all of this praying and tarrying and and meditating that they do, and imagine if they pulled that power in themselves and then powered out, to their power, to their magic, so to speak. My computer went off. Not that I needed it anyway, but why is it going off and not coming back on? So, okay, there it is. So that is the thing in terms of, again, not oversimplifying, not coming off sounding stupid and cuckoo, that, just think, just meditate and exercise, and that's just going to, that's just going to help everything. But you already doing that when you be like, oh, God got me. You believing in an invisible God. So these are the things. So now start believing in an invisible strength that you need to power up, that you need to be able to do things with, and that is possible. It's fun. I keep saying it's funny. I don't know why. That's just a thing. But I remember in maybe it was a documentary, something that I read or saw. I read and see a lot of things over the years, but they were saying that there actually is no reason why a human limb can't grow back. And literally because of the way the body is, and that it restores itself every 7 days or whatever the case may be. Almost the whole body regenerates itself every 7 days, which is also an interesting thing about aging and gray hairs, because I certainly have my edges of gray as well, and all those types of things, and stress and all, and with what we are believing. And that was another thing that Javon talked about, this be the lie, that how be and lie are in believe. And that was a good point, to be the lie. But also about that, how the limb is supposed to grow. So if you lose your hand, you lose your arm, you lose your leg, it actually is supposed to be able to grow back. And they were like, well, why do you think, obviously, that it has never grown back for anybody? And that's the whole thing. It's never grown back for anybody. Nobody has had necessarily a point of reference or anything to believe that this is actually possible. As a matter of fact, there's always been this communication, and this is a good analogy for Black people, that it's not possible. We have, in spite of all of that, continued to come out on the other side, showing that a lot of things are possible and that we aren't what they say and all of these things. We just have to stop parroting them all together and not go into the arenas. I'm sure, obviously there's plenty of people, thank goodness for the people who do that. The two that come to mind, Charles Blow and Angela Rye, who go and do CNN and go and do MSNBC and do all of these shows and talk about all of these issues and things like that. I'm actually not interested in going in their platform. I'm not interested in any kind of talks and discussions with white people And I've said that in a number of videos. So I don't really see the point. As a matter of fact, I think that, again, is another one of those things that is counterproductive and counterintuitive, because it is just something that we have been doing, trying to reason and be logical and rational with people who are not trying to reason and be logical and rational with us. So all of those types of things is in terms of, those are the things to stop the insanity, where we need to stop the insanity, stop trying to be a part of people who have made it crystal clear, demonstrating in their behavior and demonstrating in their history what they would like to convey as far as the true integration and true equality, which does not exist. And the myth of the ally, which also allies do not exist, and how you can get the proof of that. But because we want to find one person, and that's another thing as well, because we want to find that one person. Like, I don't go around saying, you know, when people saying, well, do you hate white people? Why do I have to give some sort of explanation about that? Why do I have to explain that? Why do I have to say I got a white friend and all these types of things? Again, all of that stuff is control. All of that stuff is part of the conditioning, brainwash, programming, being trained and being taught in order to be controlled, to put a cap on everything you're doing. That's all their arena stuff. To reject their narratives, reject their systems, and therefore reject the institution that is racism. So that is what we want to do, and stop talking to them on their panels and about their, reverse racism is real, any of that nonsense that they're bringing. Racism is a construct. Y'all already know. I'm just like, definitely don't say that lie. Stop letting them program you to do these things, because that is what it is. It's a lie and it's a trick that they have been doing. So these are the things, again, that now as you start to recognize, you are about powering up. You are about activating your magic. That's another word too. Activating your power, activating your magic, and being able to shield yourself in a very real way, but then also to grow and to progress the way that you've already been doing. But now understanding that, yeah, you're dealing with a whole animal, not a whole nother animal, who is very dangerous and is very violent and is very set and determined, and has always been, because the history has played that out in demonstrations of how they are, and in terms of trying to get you to assimilate. I said the words, there's some is hidden in the word, as the people in the Bible want to say, right? So, you know, don't do those types of things. And then while you're also trying to do it, you are also, you know, how they have, and people doing, as I said, the chakras and the energy and the Reiki and all of that kind of stuff. Do you? I'm certainly not against any of that, but this is about your power. The only thing you can control in terms of your power, for sure, in yourself, and what you would be able to do as we continue to power up. And I'm on that journey as well, but it certainly is how a lot of what the source and the vortex is speaking to me, all the things that are already here, right, that we just have to get. And if you got them all at the same time, and all of those types of things, and even what you want to happen to other people. It's not necessarily a bad thing, especially when you are combating evil, you know, that you want to have a particular type of power to be able to make sure that people who are harming you are no longer able to harm you. So with that being said, let's just do a little bit in terms of the law of attraction. One of the things about that was interesting about the movie is obviously that they were exposing the secret. And they went about it, and they didn't talk about it. They were like, this thing, everybody has known the great secret, and they talk and they saying the secret, because, you know, that was marketing. And obviously the secret was the law of attraction, that thoughts become things. What you think about, you bring about, you know, all of those things. They all said that. It's not necessarily coming from me. It's not original, but it's been said by other people, but that's kind of where they came from. Thoughts become things. What you think about, you bring about, and that the law of attraction is the great secret. And that that a lot of people with wealth and privilege back in the days, primarily white men, and that's who she showed, were harvesting organs. No, but they were keeping all of the information to themselves, right? They were keeping the secret. They weren't trying to teach people that it's about, thinking positive and that type of thing. That's obviously not as simple for a lot of people to believe anyway. But one of the things that we do is that we do repair from the inside out. We are in repair, and then in part of being in repair, after you start to repair, is that you get well, right? You get stronger. You get more life going. So if you even think about that process, imagine what it is if you begin to start to power up and activate your power, activate your magic, and begin to have that become your external, to push that energy out. And around you, first of all, and around your family, right? That's the first one. You're the core, the main center, and then push that force field of energy, your warrior, your source warriors, your source army around you and your family, right? And then, everything you want to call to mind, your source doctor, your source lawyer, your source teachers, all of those types of things that you are. It's whatever you want. And I used to say that a lot more when I started talking about this, because that's what it is. You are ultimately going to find out that you, right, and source are one. So it begins to be about you, you being the one who increases this power. Right now, it does, in a sense, look like, okay, you got to kind of get to source, stay in line and source and all these types of things. But you want to get to the point where you are enveloped by source and you are working from the inside out. You are working within source and being like activate. And sometimes it's good now that you have these visuals of movies, right? These special effects where they can show you pulling down. Now they can do all these things with the computer screens. It can just be in the air and pulling it down. I remember with Minority Report, I think it was, with Tom Cruise, when he was like some cop from the future and whatever and stuff like that. But definitely the graphics that they did with you being able to push this around and push that around. And that's the way that you want to be able to activate a lot of things, not just in your physical world, but starting there, but then in the world. And it's certainly in circumstances that Black people need to be activated in. And I also was thinking about, and then I'm just going to get more specific on this. Is my last observation, and then I'm just going to get into a little bit of the book and just a few journal things. How we do rituals as Black people, and I can see my little frown as I'm thinking. Yeah, but how we do rituals, and we obviously are the original rituals. We see the passion in dances when Africans have done their dances, when we do it here in America, all of that. We see a lot of passion in our arts. Because we communicate a lot with our bodies and with our creativity. And I think, and obviously that is a very mental thing. And I think that, again, as I said, when we piece and parcel in together what has been annihilated, it also is a clue into what our power has been. I think for whatever offense that we did back then, and I may talk about this at length as I'm starting to get some observations about it, and even in my meditations, what I feel like is being revealed. But I think that one of the things, or one of the reasons we kind of do all of this, dancing to the gods, if we want to call it that, is to try to bring back something that we lost, something that was taken from us from some reason, some way that, the way the Bible says that we offended the gods or something like that, something that we lost. And I think that to a certain extent, not like the Bible, per se, but that is true. That I think that we are trying to, again, maybe a power like Superman has his kryptonite. So I'm going to be using a lot of these metaphors for lack of better ones. But I know a lot of people watch television. I don't even watch it as much, but it's just interesting that even with Javon, he had to go to some movie sometimes when you want to give Ray Charles movie and the Life movie, when you're going to want to give examples of certain things, because people will get that. That's what they can relate to. So yes, the same. It's in a similar context. It is like that in that you have yeah, just lost my chain of thought there for a second. But that you powering up from kryptonite. There that is from kryptonite, the same way Superman had kryptonite. That we lost something. That somebody took something, maybe whatever. We already know how they have ravaged and assaulted Africa, right, which is our kind of home base, our home planet, the mothership, and how that is even had an effect on our power and our abilities to be as powerful. So it's just an interesting thing to just start to think about. And I'm going to keep saying these days, definitely activate your power, activate your magic, because I think that there's definitely something there. And just using some of the laws of attraction to kind of bring it out and to bring some proof about it as well. So this is some of the things in terms of the secret. So a lot of times the first thing that stresses people, remember I talk about money, and I talk about money in terms of 4 things, technically 5, but just 4 things: options, opportunity, influence, and then kind of comfort and well-being are the same, one and the same. So let's just go with 4 rather than keep going 4 or 5. So yeah, that is just, if you want one in $1 billion, instead of saying $1 billion, which is obvious, but a lot of what it is that you want what it'll bring you: options, opportunities, influence, material items could technically be another one, but I just call all of that opportunities and options. And then some comfort and well-being, not worrying about money, not worrying about paying your bills. So I have to take off my glasses right when you start doing that kind of thing, because you don't need them. When they talk about money, because money is just a big thing for everybody. So the only attract abundance. So it just says you need money. It is a powerful feeling within you. And so, of course, through the law of attraction, you will continue to attract needing money. The only reason any person does not have enough money is because they are blocking money from coming to them with their thoughts. Every negative thought, feeling, or emotion is blocking your good from coming to you, and that includes money. It is not that the money is being kept from you by the universe, because all the money you require exists right now in the invisible. If you do not have enough, it is because you are stopping the flow of money coming to you. You are doing that with your thoughts. You must tip the balance of your thoughts from lack of money to more than enough money. Think more thoughts of abundance than of lack. You have tipped the balance. So yeah, and I think that that is obviously in terms of need. When we thinking about needing money, obviously it also triggers the emotions with regards to that we are thinking about needing money. And not necessarily thinking about having money, and or thinking about what the money is going to be able to do for us and what it is going to bring forth for us. So that is the thing about it as well, that you need to kind of start thinking about abundance. So I can agree with that in the sense of sometimes also changing, again, the language, because this is our language anyway. We are, and I'm not just talking about first language. We can go with English being the language and things like that, but I'm talking about the narrative. When I'm talking about language, the narrative behind all of what we are dealing with is somebody else's narrative. So as we start to bring it back, we can bring it to prosperity and abundance, even though that's their words, until we find better words. But for us, whatever it was that we were gifted with, whatever our gifts were, whatever our power was, whatever our momentum was, whatever our alignment was, whatever our vibration and attraction, all of those things were. So I'll do one more, the relationships, because that's also a big one. You deal with people, you're going to encounter relationships. So they have these summaries. So maybe let me go to the summaries on this one. Secret to relationships. Let me see if I can't find the summary. This relationship starts. Okay, secret summaries. When you want to attract a relationship, make sure your thoughts, words, actions, and surroundings don't contradict your desires. And I think that is interesting as well too, because, and we've people joke about that sometimes too, where they might say somebody like this guy, a guy who, and well, if you look at the rappers, that not necessarily the case, but you can have a guy that's obese, overweight, not attractive, a Biggie, let's say, and things like that, and then he can pull a Faith Evans, and even a little Kim, back in the days, little Kim, she was a bit of a hood rat too, but how that contrast kind of happens, and it happens unequally, but it does happen. But for the most part, attracting who you are. if you're making this list of a person and stuff like that, where I want somebody who's working out every day, and I want somebody college educated, and I want somebody who got a good head on their shoulder, and all those types of things. Are you those things? So it's those types of things as well, that you're making sure that when you are tracking a relationship, make sure your thoughts, words, and actions surround and don't contradict your desires. Sometimes you as a person make sure you don't contradict. Be that person that also that you are seeking. And also, right, because then when you're doing that as well, a lot of times it's a lot easier to kind of attract what you are looking for, because you are that person as well. I always thought it was as well, when people say, oh, I don't want to date me. I don't want nobody like me. This too, you know, I always thought that was, I may have said that in another video. I always thought that was strange. I definitely want to date me. You know, that for me, I want somebody like me, because I like me. I really do like me. I really do appreciate some things about me. I may be a work in progress and a dreamer and a free spirit, and you know, those types of things, and all over the place at times. But there's a lot of good qualities, more good qualities about me that I can appreciate, that I can like. And then you want to get somebody who may have your strengths may be some of their weaknesses, and their strengths may be some of your weaknesses. And you kind of are two whole people coming together to be a better and a bigger whole person or couple together. As opposed to be thinking, you know, you're my half, I need another half. No, I want to be a whole person and have another whole person. So that's also something to think about. And the focus, look at that now, just to see how law of attraction works. Focus on the qualities you love about yourself, and the law of attraction will show you more great things about you. There you go. And see how that's how it works too with the law of attraction. And manifest and ride that wave. Like I just did that. Let me just just toss another $1 million into my vortex right now. I need it to be here now. You know, when you manifest things like that, do it. You know, it's almost like make a wish. You're throwing a penny in there. Add something to that. So I just happen to be talking about that, and I look down, and it's right there, and that's a manifestation. And let me manifest some more. Let me put some more stuff on there. Throw $1 million into the vortex room right there. So that's what I just did. But yeah, so these are the things. And treat yourself with love and respect, and you will attract people who show you love and respect. Same thing. And that's where it comes back to a lot of times, where people just don't really realize that it starts with you. And you really do have to kind of recognize that. A lot of times we're talking about the selfishness and all these other things, but this is really about getting yourself together. Something that you've heard for the longest time. A lot of times we feel like if we get into these relationships, that will make us better. And maybe that works for a few people. Obviously, you've heard sometimes we'd be like, oh, he got with that girl, or she got with that guy, and and she's doing so much better. And that is true. You know, but a lot of times, and in most cases, you waiting around for somebody who's not going to come. You're the one you've been waiting for. So I see my girl Lisa Nichols on this final page, so I'm going to just read whatever she says. If you don't know Lisa Nichols, look up Lisa Nichols. She's the black lady in the Secret. It was only one, so. So yeah, I'm going to be going there, but okay. Oftentimes, you give others the opportunity to create your happiness, and many times they fail to create it the way you want it. Why? Because only one person can be in charge of your joy, of your bliss, and that's you. So even your parent, your child, your spouse, they do not have the control to create your happiness. They simply have the opportunity to share in your happiness. Your joy lies within you. Okay. Hopping another couple of million in there. Let me that's 2 more million, because I was again kind of just saying the same thing. About the wholes, right? You know, being a whole person coming into it and stuff like that, and not making somebody responsible for your happiness. And these are all the things. And again, as Black people, while we're dealing, we already know what's going on. We saw some 14-year-old girl get bashed up and all the other things. So how do you kind of contrast that? We've already been doing that. So again, now you want to bring it to the power, become your Hulk. Become your superhero, activate your power, activate your magic while you're building all these things up. We're no longer suppressing that we are victims of racism and harm and danger and violence by these terrorists with badges. All of that we can talk about that and talk about it strong, because again, as I said, we are activating our power. We are activating our magic to be able to do things, taking care of us and force field surrounding us, and also starting to bring it out. Bring that power out. And that's what you want to start doing. So that was an interesting thing just in there, even to get a little witness of some quick manifestations. I'm talking about this, and then I look down into the law of attraction book, and boom, there it is. And then you put a pause there. I just saying, and let me just throw a couple of million. I couldn't think of nothing else, but that's good. The million to buy me the material things I want, right? So I just threw 3 million. Well, that's the first time it was 1 million. I said, let me throw a couple. That's 2 million. That's a total of 3 million I threw into my boom boom room today. So yeah, I'll be going to cash that, right? We're looking to cash that soon, in the now, so that's the whole thing, to be getting there. But as Abraham was saying about sometimes when you get everything, you got to also be ready for all of the things that are coming your way. And sometimes if you get it beforehand, and we see that a lot of times also with people who don't have anything. Another example, using a lot of the rappers and things, where you see them buying stuff. It's so funny, Jacob the Jeweler, I think it is. This is my last thing on this, and then I'm going to do a little, make it an hour, so this is good. Jacob the Jeweler, and he's off, and they often, when they talk to him about, well, what do you think about when these rappers come in here and buying these $80,000 and $90,000 chains and all this other stuff? And I remember the first couple, because he's been around since like the first rappers back in the day, because he's from New York, my hometown, and all the other stuff. So all of that materialism, when people don't have anything, and then they just get more of no thing. Even when they get something, it's no thing, because we haven't learned about building wealth, right? And that's beyond being rich. It's about building wealth, things that I will be talking about here as I start to hopefully let my life reflect that as well, not just being up here talking about stuff, but also seeing the changes. We talked about the weight, and and then just going back and forth with that, and then just kind of continuing on. So got what I was talking about right there. That lost that chain of thought. So I'll have to just go. I'll just have to move on from it. But one of the things, if it comes back to me, then I'll talk about it. But yeah. So one of the things in terms of the journal, and some of my entries, sharing with the viewers, as I said, prepared, confident, and passionate. And I wrote, and it was kind of based on, as I was listening to Javon, I did kind of write this when I was listening to him and Chris kind of started it off, but I had only wrote from Hirsch. I wrote all day, I feel good. And then I remembered something that Javon had said. He wasn't talking about this per se, but it kind of felt like it connected, where he said, even in contrast, and he was just talking about how we are, there's this as below, above, so below, and as, as within, as we, without the whole duality thing. But I ended up writing the sentence, all day I feel good, even in contrast, in perception and perspective, experience and existence. Because for me, perception and perspective, and then experience and existence, they're kind of parallels. I am truly experiencing and existing in source. Everything I want now is here and becoming and reachable, doable and achievable, instant, immediate, and attainable. So there again, let me toss a million in there. As I was just saying, everything I want, right? So there's the 4 million tossed in there again today, and all of those things to be able to, you're here, it's here now and becoming, but also it's reachable and it's attainable, and it's here already as we continue to prepare to just pick it up, to make a withdrawal. That's the thing. And she talks about that as well, making a vibrational withdrawal, making a withdrawal in terms of what you want in your life and all these things that you're putting there, and that nothing is being withheld from you. So Black people, we need to know that there are people who've been trying to crash into our energy. We already know we won't be stopped. We do need to activate something. It's just kind of like finding with natural, when they show some movie like National Treasure, or I don't know, one of these movies where they're going and looking for the treasure and stuff like that. That's what we have to do. We got to go within ourselves to dig up that thing, that power that has been buried, that has been suppressed, that will activate our magic, that activates our power, as we continue to be pressing on. We already been doing it, but we are no longer going to do it in this way of we want to tell ourselves that that we have not been being terrorized and by the institution of racism and their enforcers of slave laws. Now we're going to power out. Now we're going to be powerful, full in the knowledge and in growing in that power and understanding that all of this energy now is also something that we are doing. You know, we're putting in our magic suit. It's just being powered up over there. Every time something happens, every time we see it, our suit is being powered up so that we can be able to not put your armor on, you know, so that we can be able to do something with it. As we continue to progress. So that's all I got. This is the weekly Wednesday cap and chat. Come on now. Weekly Wednesday chat and recap. And I don't know why I forgot something in the middle of my thought back then. So that's a rare one for me, but oh well, it happens. So I will see you on the next one, you guys. So continue to stick with me. And thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next Wednesday. The weeks coming up are going to be a little something or other because I will be in another state, but I'm taking my stuff with me, so we'll see how it's going to be going. All right, looking forward to seeing y'all and speaking to you again. Check for more videos. Mental health videos have come out. I think I put out 2 this week, and I'm going to be doing that as well. Just more videos in general and just changes and growth as everything continues to progress. Let's get to 100,000 subscribers. Why not? Let's get to 1 million subscribers on this journey. And this is the first time I'm saying that, but let's start putting that out there. There's a deposit into the vortex. I got $4 million and also 1 million subscribers. So I'm on this thing and I'm believing this thing because it's true, right? If you want to stop being the lie, it's stop to believing in the narratives and the systems that are the institution of racism. Those are the things we believe. No longer be the lie in those things, but us, we have something real that we need to draw from and pull from and get our power and activate our power. We don't have to get it back. It's here. Activate our power and activate our magic. I'll see you next time and keep tuning in. This has been Veronica and I'm doing mental health. I'm doing the book club and I'm rapping and recapping with you. Love you guys. Later.